is sort of torn. Even sprints are somewhat torn. Just a lot of distance between y'all and the rest of the world. West Coast is just on an island and they're screwed. I mean, and that, car counts and classes out there on the West, everything else but a sprint car. You don't get no glamour. You don't get no clout. You don't get no attention. It's open wheel country. No one cares. There's no late models over there. So there ain't no fendered class that goes really fast and speed sells. I think that's the biggest issue with the modified class in the world right now. The biggest issue with, I don't care if it's these XR, ONHM modifieds, UMP mod, even USMTS, which is the best damn racing you could see. The problem with modified racing is that in this new world that Kyle and High Limit and World of Outlaws are living in and battling in, there's this thing called streaming, okay? And streaming is a camera in the grandstands that films things on the track that are very entertaining to watch, and people will pay money to watch that entertainment. Now, the problem with that is video slows everything down. It's a sprint car looks slow on camera. We always say to be there in person is completely different. And that's very true. A sprint car that looks fast on a camera at Eldora or Knoxville or any of these tracks is when you're there, you really feel how fast that is. And a modified going into a corner at 85, 90 when you're in person, or 65 when you're in person, that feels very fast. But unfortunately, for the modified racing of the world, your cars look snail-ass slow in the streaming world. On camera, and I hate it. I'm a modified guy. I love modifieds. I've advocated for modifieds for so damn long. I've done a lot of stuff around them. I think they're awesome. They are definitely although I will say, that is where the line is drawn between enjoyment of in-person versus at home. I can know every driver. I'm probably going to watch the 100,000 to win at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. That's glorious and great. Hell, I'm already trying to find a ride, even though they're sold out on entries. That's great. That's grand. But a modified just looks so slow. And like I said, that's where the line is drawn for me. If you're not entertaining on camera, if you don't look fast and quick and in a hurry on camera, this new world that's all about streaming and camera-based exposure that people are going to pay to view, it's just too slow, man. It's the WNBA. Yeah, and I'm no disrespect to the WNBA. I mean, they're great. They're grand. They're almost like the modified guys. They're the best of their world, but has anybody watched a WNBA game? Or have you got, and for me, I've only kind of watched pro sports. I watched a little college football, I'm not into college basketball like some people are. But when I grew up in Texas, it's all about being the best, very arrogant and cocky people down there. So that's how I was raised in my surroundings, black neighborhoods, all that. It was all about being the best on the court or the best in the field or hitting the hardest or throwing the best or it was all about being the best where I grew up. And if you weren't the best, take your ass whooping and get better. But what I mean by that is I grew up watching pros. I grew up watching NFLs and NBAs. And, sometimes if dad was really, really drunk, there was a hockey game on the TV. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is when you watch an NBA game and you get used to that style of watching the players on the court play and the speeds and the athleticism, and then when you hear about this WNBA thing and you tune over to it, it's just not the same. You can visually see the digression in speed, in bursting, in momentum, in shifting, in action. You can see the action slows down. And when you're used to NBA level action, it is hard, at least for me, to get attuned to watching a WNBA because it's just the action is so much slower. And I think that's going to be a big issue for modified guys out there. I think that's going to be a huge, and I didn't plan on this being a modified discussion, but I think that's going to be a huge issue for the future of modified racing. It's just you look too. It's almost in the WNBA NBA aspect. The biggest difference that you see when you watch a WNBA game is it looks like little midgets on the court. It looks like little people. It looks like little bitty short people are on the court, and that's why the action looks so slow and it takes them so long to get to the basket. It's because the people in the NBA are just that big. You know, you go to an NBA game and it's like watching giants. You know, you don't realize that when you're growing up watching it on a TV screen versus the in-person. But you get there and like, wow, these guys are giants. I'm sure a WNBA game, when you're there in person, it's like, wow, this is fast. Wow, this is action-packed. But on camera, it just doesn't sell. And that's what I believe. Now, it's unfortunate. Hopefully people like watching very slow-looking 3 and 4 wide badass racing. But the difference between being in person at, for instance, Mississippi Thunder Speedway next year for 100K versus watching it on camera is going to be night and day. To me, that's a race you either go to or you just don't watch. It's modified, and this is just my opinion, obviously. I'm sure there's people with an opinion, oh, I love it. They slow it down so the camera don't jitter as much, and we get to see more action or something. I don't know. But for me, this is the big problem with modified racing going forward. And I reference modifieds in this conversation because he talked about California, and that's about the only fender style racing y'all have to provide. That's your top fuel of fendered racing over there. It's not like the Midwest and the East Coast, Southeast, where they got super late models and even the limited late model or just something that has a body on it and fucking hauls ass. Now, look, I'm not saying your IMCA and USMTS modifieds aren't hauling ass, but in comparison, I'm not saying you suck, WNBA player, but in comparison to LeBron, the late models and the Michael Jordan sprint cars and all, compared to these guys, you look slow, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault that y'all are just a bunch of fucking bitches. And you won't get in to real race cars. Unfortunately, that's true. Now, I ain't gonna talk about your hair or if it's nappy or not, but at the end of the day, we're trying to get canceled here on the chat, so we're just gonna go and say some offensive shit. Why not? It's fun, right? Fucking dumbasses. But anyways, Ninja, please. No, y'all ain't a bunch of bitches. I think Modified's possibly the hardest car to drive. In dirt racing. It's just in person, probably some of the best racing you can see in person. But when you get on that camera, you just don't measure up, guys. You just don't. The action, the speed's just not there. And because we're used to that late model and sprint car speed, it's just you can visually see the slowness. You can visually see the retardation in speed. This is the actual term meaning retardation in speed. The actual slowness of the cars. It sucks. To me, it sucks. To me, it's one of the worst things going. Maybe there's some kind of new 4K camera or something that can capture the speed. Maybe some different camera angles. But man, I ain't going to sit here and just keep hating on modifieds. Because like I said, I think that we're the best racing. Has some of the best race car drivers. Dallin Murdy is entered into that event. I want to go to that event. But if I don't go to Mississippi Thunder Speedway in person to that race, I'm not going to watch it on streaming. I would rather read the results the next day than watch a YouTube highlight. Because I can at least imagine and respect the results. I can't really respect how slow it looks on camera. I'm just saying, and that sounds really bad, but man, what modifieds look like on streaming is really bad. It really is really bad. Is there any responses to that? I know somebody's got to have a comment. I'm sure people want to call in now and rip me a new one. Hold on.